So a counterfeit system is a spiritual system that is a false system, and it is tied into false light. There is many different structures, places, realms, and dimensions within it, and they look like real light, but they're not. And you can even get a false sense of peace and other positive things, but they're actually not real. So this is what I wanted to go a little bit deeper into today. So people can get plugged into these systems, and there's different ways that they can get plugged in. I'm going to name a few. One being where you have experienced something that is traumatic, overwhelming. What happens is, if you imagine yourself as a glass, and within that glass, you have gifts, you have talents, you have abilities that have been put in there by God for you to bring into the world. So when there's trauma, often what happens, it's like the glass smashes and it goes into different pieces. So when we have something traumatic or overwhelming happening to us, it can fracture our spirit. So part of our spirit can get split off, but it also causes a lot of stress, which lowers our frequency, and that is when we can get plugged into. There are certain things that we can say when we are in a state of trauma that open up a spiritual doorway for this to happen. The other way that it can occur is through the bloodline. The bloodline agreements, the energetic, the contracts. There's a lot of time that we can go into contract with these false light systems, counterfeit systems, and we actually don't know. And sometimes people do know. So I'm going to tell you a story of a client of mine. So when she came to me, she did healing work, and she was very gifted. And the problem that she was facing was, the more she did the healing work, the more problems she would get in her own life. She would lose money, she was drained, she was depleted. So as I looked at her energy, I could see a lot of wires, cables, chips, etc. I don't know if any of you have ever seen anything like that before. If you have, drop me a comment. So I am aware of what these are. These wires, what they are is they are spiritual pathways that tie in to counterfeit structures. Within these counterfeit structures, there is governments, spiritual government. So once a person gets tied into that, they go in through some kind of contract or bloodline contract or an open door. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Then these things can get laid, and they're used to siphon off energy, gifts, ability, money, and also to put things in. So I told her what I saw. And she said to me, well, I'm not surprised. And she told me the story of her father. So her father's family were worshipping false gods. And they knew that he had a big purpose. And they sacrificed his life to these gods. And because he had such a big purpose, there was a bigger gain for them in terms of wealth and power. So here's the way it played out. They rose, and he suffered, and he experienced more pain and more loss. So the more he experienced those lower frequency, the more they gained. So basically, because of this, the family had gone into contract worship with these energies, and there were doorways open, and they had claimed they had laid a claim on her. And because of the contracts within the family, the way that it works in the spirit realm, they had a right in until it was actually broken off. So they were siphoning her energy, her gifts, manipulating her gifts at times. So sometimes she was really clear, but other times she was foggy. Her money was getting drained, and because she was trying to help people, it was like she was getting punished on the spiritual level. So guys, remember, everything starts in the spirit. We are having a spiritual experience. Life is a spiritual experience. So anything that is going on in the here and now, it has a spiritual root. And we need to address that in order to change it. So because she was helping people, it was like she was getting punished, and they were literally controlling her money flow. So there was many other bits and pieces to it, but I just wanted to give you an example of how a person can get tied in. You know, there are different ways in which people go into contract with lower energies, and they're not going worshipping something that is not the true God. It can be through deeds that we do, through acts that we do, through acts that our ancestors did, lying, stealing, cheating, all of these things. You're going into contract. When you have sex with someone, you are going into contract. Your spirit unites with theirs, and there is an exchange. And that can be whatever they're carrying, plus soul fragments can get exchanged. So you're literally, adding to whatever you're carrying. So there's many different ways to open these doors. Once the door is open, because of the way the spiritual realm works, if someone has gone into contract with something, those energies, they have a right to actually enter and infiltrate. So there is an opening for them, and that needs to be addressed in order to actually shut it down. So what I am aware of is that many people are really gifted, so they know that they have gifts, but their gifts are being hijacked, manipulated, and misdirected. Because of the openings, they might get targeted with attacks. There's different things that can happen. So we have to actually look at that, what might be going on. So this is related to your gifts, okay? Our gifts can get twisted in many different ways. We have different gifts. So, for example, the prophetic ability. When we experience trauma, that gets twisted into something else. So that was an ability that was given to us by God to be able to prophesy, to be able to hear God, to be able to speak the truth, because we all have a purpose. And our purpose plugs directly into our gifts. Our gifts and our purpose should be connected into God in order for us to fulfill it. But a lot of the time, they are not plugged into the correct place, or you can have parts of you that is plugged into the correct place and parts that are actually not. And often when that happens, what you'll experience is double-mindedness, back and forth, back and forth. And what that is your trauma self, the part of you who is still under the influence of the programs that were installed through the trauma that you experienced. Trauma is simply something that is overwhelming. It's too much for you to deal with in the moment. And you're still under the falsehood, the lies, the masks. You're still operating in the self that is not the real God-given self. And then there's another part of you who wants to move forward. So it can manifest as this back and forth, this double-mindedness. So when we look at that prophetic ability, where there is trauma, what happens is that gets redirected. So you learn to scan your environment. You learn to read other people automatically. You're reading the room before you walk in. Maybe you're on the other side of the world and you're reading what is going on. That's not the way it was actually intended to be. So all of your energy is redirected, and it's being used up. So how can you truly hear the voice of God in the way that the Creator wants you to hear? You can't, because you're still hyper vigilant. It's being twisted into that. So would you like to receive the truth about that? Would you like to have truth and understanding of what your God-given gifts are? So if you'd like to receive that, please say yes. Would you like to understand how your gifts may have actually got twisted into something else? How they were redirected, and what needs to occur to start to clean them up? And all things that does not allow you to see that clearly, to know that clearly, and to receive that clearly, can we revoke it, renounce, denounce? Cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform, transmute from the source point. So if you are tied into false systems, counterfeit structures, they have access to you. But you can get access from people around you too. And I'll explain a little bit, or influence. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. I'm sensing some webs and covering over the spiritual eyes. Would you like the fire of God to burn away those nets, those webs, and everything that allowed it in? Can we burn it away? And would you like to know how to operate within the truth of God and let go of everything else? Cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform, transmute from the source point. We are born with a spiritual covering from God. That covering protects us spiritually, energetically. When we have experienced certain things in our life, the covering gets broken. So we don't really trust God. We trust ourselves. We learn to trust our prophetic ability or some other ability that has been twisted to keep us safe. And we can't really get on purpose. So can we ask for restoration of the covering that was given to you? Please drop me in some comments. Let me know how you're doing. Okay, when you have this strong faith in God, you trust God. Even if things feel a bit hard or difficult and you're going through something that feels chaotic, you know that God has a bigger purpose. There's something else going on here. There is a plan. And you're able to rest in that truth. Would you like to know that? Would you like to understand the bigger plan for you, for your life, but anything that you are going through? What is really happening here? You know, I got the message that some people, the past while, what is happening is they're experiencing a lot of challenge, a lot of difficulty, especially on like the spiritual level, and it might be showing up in your life too, in the physical. So the message I received is people are going through, it's like a process of death, but it's not a bad thing. It's a pruning process to begin to prune away what cannot stay, for you to step forward into what it is that you are meant to be doing. So would you like to understand the truth, if that applies to you, and how to embrace that? If God is showing you certain things inside you that need to be cleaned up, it's because you're being prepared for something else. You're being prepared spiritually, probably mentally and energetically, to step into something else. But often when that happens, we go to this space of, it's not fair, nothing is working out, those types of thoughts. We need to learn to control that, because God created the world with words. We are made in the image of God, so imagine the power of our words. And when you keep repeating things over and over again, you can put a curse on yourself. So would you like to understand the truth of the ways that you have unconsciously placed curses on yourself, and to remove the arrows and the effects and the binds and the bonds, and every judgment that you have of yourself, a hidden agenda to hold you back, things that you've made up about yourself, or the lies that have been impelled onto you, okay, which create these spiritual masks that are not you. The identities, can we take the nails out and can we let them go? Can we now put them into the fire and can we burn it? Let's revoke, renounce, denounce, cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform, transmute from the source point. All of these things are the things that feed in and allow entry into counterfeit systems. So they have to be cleaned up so that you can raise yourself to where you're meant to be. So would you like to know and understand that truth and let go of everything else? Cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform, transmute from the source point. Would you like to know what true safety is? Would you like to release any false safety? You know, there is another thing too. There is what I'm going to call false compassion, okay? There might be a different word for it, but that's how I'm going to describe it here. God's compassion is pure. Sometimes what happens is people who have had a lot of difficulty and challenge in their life, they go into caring professions. Doctors, nurses, healers, psychologists, psychotherapists, etc. But they're driven by the trauma. And that compassion, they have the gift of compassion. That's another gift, but it can get twisted. So they have the gift of compassion. But because of what they do, or what they've been through, and it hasn't fully been cleaned up, it gets twisted into saving, fixing, rescuing, and carrying other people. We're not meant to carry anyone. We're not meant to fix anyone, and we're not meant to save anyone. We're meant to give it all to God. And your job, you know, if you are in that type of profession, it's not to do those things. Unless you're a doctor or a nurse, and in certain circumstances, it might be relevant. So, can we bring in truth and show you the ways things have been twisted? But the underlying motivation is the pain, the traumas, and the identities, the masks that have been created based on that. So let's just bring in that truth. Let's show you your true ability of compassion that God deposited into you, and the true understanding of safety. What is false safety? False safety is a sense of safety that is given if you meet conditions, or it can be that you have parts of you that are operating in illusion, denial, so you can't see properly. So let's open your eyes, open your spiritual eyes, open your spiritual ears, and let's let go of everything else. Cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform, transmute from the source point. Cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform, transmute from the source point. So you need to look at everything that is going on in your life. My recommendation would be, God, what are you doing here? Not oh my, this is happening and that is happening. That is going to keep you stuck. It's going to keep you stuck in limitations because you've already defined it as many things. You've concluded it as many things when actually it's not the reality. But you're seeing it through the lens of the trauma. The trauma gets activated, or there's another spiritual influence. So, whatever it is for you, if you have something going on, name it now. We're going to ask Creator, show me the truth. What are you doing here? Some people are being called to reposition themselves as well. That might be in work. That might be in country. It can be in different ways. So things show up, but you're being moved in a different direction. Because maybe God was trying to tell you, you need to move. You need to go, but you're not listening, or you cannot hear. Another thing that blocks your hearing is you're in chaos. You get lost in other people's chaos. So would you like to let go of the chaos? You see, when we have these trauma programs running, we often say yes when we want to say no. We're running on automatic. And you go into contract with things like chaos. You open up portals. So you have to watch what you're saying, watch what you're doing, and really listen to Creator. So let's show you what that is, what that looks like, what that feels like, and let's let go of everything else. Cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose for, choose mute from the source point. Let's take the sword of the Spirit of God and cut away ties, binds, bonds, chains. You know, when you're tied to these systems, they can implant things too, like depression or the feeling of being depressed. But that can also come when you are in a process of your energy being took for different purposes. Defeat. So you have to look, what's really going on here? What is this? So let's just lift what needs to go. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose for, choose mute from the source point. There is a lot going on in the world at the moment. There's a lot of energetic stuff going on, physical things, spiritual things. And people are being affected by that. We are part of the whole. Part of you're getting affected by the energetics and different things that are going on. Let's show you the truth about that. So the message I get is part of what we're being called to is to really pray and connect to God. Pray for those people. Pray for truth. Pray for justice. And pray for yourself. Now, to pull you into a system or a spiritual trap or snare, you have to be brought into a lower vibration. Fear. You have to go into agreement with it. Or other frequencies. So you need to be aware. You know, what I'm aware of is there's a lot of like little things going on. Like people are being gaslit. Gaslighting is not just on the human level. That is a spiritual tactic to pull you down into a different vibration and frequency. And usually the person is open and they are carrying things. You know, we have to learn to listen to the voice of God and allow God to be our GPS going forward. Let's show you how to do that. You're often going to have people around you telling you why you shouldn't do something or what to do or trying to pull you back through remarks or different ways. They may be aware, but they may not be. It's just their voices being used. Because if you move forward, you get free from these systems, but not only do you get free, you free others. And another thing I want to say to you, how many of you have noticed that before you're meant to take a big kind of step forward, you receive some kind of like attack or argument or fight? It's just another pullback. So if anyone is experiencing that, I would say be silent and ask what is going on, because it's a way to try to pull you back. We have to sharpen our spiritual discernment as much as possible. Another thing about those attacks is, you know, often it's because you have gifts and abilities that are trying to be hidden. So it's a way to distract you. So all the distractions that can go now, let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose for, choose you from the source plane. I would love to know how you are doing. My comments are not working, so I'm going to quickly check it on the phone. Oh, loads of people. Hey, everyone. Hey, Elena, Andrea, Teresa, Dasha, Gazella, everybody, Rebecca, and everyone else. So, write me a comment. Let me know how you're doing. So another thing is if you would like to receive some like prayers, for example, that you can do for the world, for what is going on, for yourself, pop me a message in the chat that says prayer. And what I'll do is, if there's enough people, I will get a link to you. And then as I make these, because I do a lot of this myself, and I do a lot of it with other people too. So I can share that with you, and the more people who do it, the more power there is in it. So yeah, let me know how you are all doing. I'm checking for your comments. Hey Tiana, long time no see. Um, so we need to be aware. We need to listen and use our spiritual discernment. You cannot discern correctly if you are stuck in chaos, okay? And sometimes we get pulled into chaos, but you need to look at, well, why am I responding in this way? And why am I getting pulled in? And what needs to change in me? Okay. I feel like I've probably covered what I wanted to say today. I also want to mention we do have a course coming up. It is starting on the 14th of September. It's 5 weeks. It's the first time I've ever actually done it in this way, and I was guided to do it in this way. It's educational. It's all about your purpose, your spiritual assignment, because there are things written about us before we were even born, and within that there is assignments, timing. There's also an abundance factor in there as well. And what I get is that people need to start to access that and start to live that for different reasons. And it's teaching you about like your gifts. Now there are gifts, I know some of you have training and things, there are gifts you still do not know, okay? Some of you have gifts, but they're being tapped into and plugged into because of the bloodline stuff, because of the family stuff. There's ways that people can get trapped and they don't know. They can go to someone for help and they think that they're getting help. They might even get a bit of relief. This is things I've helped people with, but their spiritual parts, they get took somewhere else, and in the spirit realm, they get trafficked back and forth for different reasons. So then they go under the authority of that. What they find is money drains, energy drains, many different things, okay? So there's different ways that it can happen, and it all really needs to be cleaned out because the gifts have got to be cleaned. And then it's about accessing like your assignments, for example, your purpose. And there's so much of it is based on cleaning stuff out. Why you might be trapped in spiritual loops, what that is, what that's really about, what has opened you up to that, closing that down. It's about cleaning out the stuff that keeps you in these false systems, counterfeit structures, really reclaiming yourself. Let me see what else we've got in here. That starts, so it is like educational clearing prayers, loops. We did have the early bird, that's finished now. This is a brand new course, so there's an introductory rate that's available till Sunday, and then it goes up to the normal rate as well. There were 2 bonuses for that course. They have finished, which are about restoring your gifts. It's just over an hour. It's pre-recorded meditation, and then the other one is about moving forward with boldness. It has finished, but if you're interested in booking and you book today, get in touch and I can get those for you. So you have those to work with. There are different templates for you to go through. So there's an element of coaching with this as well. So it is going to be really powerful, and it is going to be something else, and it's a different structure to the way that I normally do things. So it's learning about the truth about your assignment, finding the false blueprints that you have been building from, trauma roles, family expectation, bloodline ties, learning the spiritual ties that you're signs that you are off course, like breakthrough collapse, sabotage, looping. There is clearing every week and things home play for you to do. Discovering your God given identity versus your trauma given identity or identities, and starting to clean that out and really restore you. Uncovering the gifts that were placed in you and how they get hijacked, untwisting, freeing you from false systems, removing blocks and bondage from your assignments, loops, ties, alignments that you should not be aligned with, that keep you circling, inherited vows, cycles, etc. There's many different pieces, and then it's really about activating your next step. So I'm very, very excited about this course. This is a very special course, and it can make a lot of real breakthroughs for you on a personal level. But the other part is it's really for you to get into alignment with what you're being called to do, because you are needed to get into alignment with that now. So guys, thank you so much for joining. It was really good to connect with you, and I will see you soon. Bye bye for now.